House responded to the opening of that investigation, calling it a completely baseless investigation. But now we're hearing directly from McCabe as he tells his own story with Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes. Scott, good morning.
Good morning.
This is fascinating to see what you've learned in this interview. He was a career FBI professional. This is the first time, however, that he's confirmed he opened that investigation. Why?
Well, it was about 8 days in May in 2017, right after Jim Comey was fired. And McCabe describes a chaotic time, especially at the Justice Department, when questions are being asked whether Jim Comey was fired to obstruct the Russia investigation, and if so, is the president an agent of Russia? There were two investigations, Nora. One, a criminal investigation, the other, a counterintelligence investigation. McCabe told us that he had many reasons to open both of those investigations, and as we just heard him say, he wanted to get those investigations opened so that if he got fired right away, they wouldn't just disappear.
What did he say about friction in the White House after the firing of Comey?
Well, he tells the story, John, of the president repeatedly in meetings and phone calls trying to convince him, McCabe, that everyone at the FBI wanted Comey fired and that everyone was very happy about that. And McCabe talks about the interview, in the interview on 60 Minutes about him telling the president, no, sir, that's not what happened. I'm encountering people in the hallway who are in tears over the firing of Jim Comey. And he says it was at that point that he realized that if he hadn't burned the bridge with the president, he could certainly smell it smoking.
It's certainly a very candid conversation. I've only read an excerpt from the book, but he's speaking very candidly about his feelings for the president and his impression of the president. Was there anything in the interview that surprised you about what he was saying?
Gail, the most illuminating and surprising thing in the interview to me were these 8 days in May when all of these things were happening behind the scenes that the American people really didn't know about. There were meetings at the Justice Department in which it was discussed whether the vice president and a majority of the cabinet could be brought together to remove the president of the United States under the 25th Amendment. These were the 8 days from Comey's firing to the point that Robert Mueller was appointed special counsel. And the highest levels of American law enforcement were trying to figure out what to do with the president.
And I just want to put a finer point on that, because there has been reporting, but I don't believe there has been a source that went on the record to confirm that the 25th Amendment was discussed about removing the president. So McCabe is saying that that was discussed.
Absolutely. McCabe, Nora, as you point out, is the very first person involved in these meetings who has come out and spoken publicly.
That there was a discussion underway about removing the president of the United States.
They were counting noses. They were not asking cabinet members whether they would vote for or against removing the president, but they were speculating this person would be with us, that person would not be, and they were counting noses in that effort.
And this was not perceived to be a joke.
This was not perceived to be a joke. It was also said at a previous time that the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, offered to wear a wire into the White House to record potentially incriminating conversations with the president. A statement was released after that was never serious, it was sarcastic, etc. McCabe in our interview says no. It came up more than once, and it was so serious that he took it to the lawyers at the FBI to discuss it.
Mr. Rosenstein seems to deny that in a very carefully worded statement, though. It's very interesting how McCabe's version and Rod Rosenstein's version of that exchange.
Well, Rod Rosenstein says that he never authorized wearing a wire into the White House, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about discussing whether it was a possibility.
Did you have a hard time keeping your face on straight while you're talking to him? Because he really says some jaw-dropping things.
I did, Gail, silently say to myself during the interview, I can't believe I'm hearing this.
And it seemed as though he was trying to reinforce how surreal and abnormal all of this was. He'd never seen anything like this.
He'd been in the FBI his whole career. He'd wanted to be there since he was in law school. He rose, he had a sterling career. It became head of the prestigious Washington field office, the head of counterterrorism, and rose all the way to the #2 position at the FBI. And this was, without a doubt, the most surreal moment he'd ever experienced.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah,
wait.
extraordinary interview and reporting. Scott, thank you, and to everybody at 60 Minutes.
Great to be with you on CBS this morning.
Thank you. And McCabe reveals more of his conversations with the president in Scott's 60 Minutes report on Sunday. That's at 7, 6 Central, right here on CBS.
Just a fascinating interview, and once again reiterating that the 25th Amendment, was something they were considering.